One of them is 79 years old. He inherited a superpower. He commands the most powerful military in human history. He has aircraft carriers, nuclear submarines, stealth bombers, and a defense budget larger than the next 10 countries combined. He just started a war that has killed over 2,000 civilians, closed the world's most important shipping lane, crashed global stock markets, and sent oil prices above $100 a barrel. His own people are paying $4 a gallon for gas. His allies are abandoning him. His jets are being shot out of the sky. And he went on live television and threatened to bomb a nation of 88 million people back to the Stone Ages. The other one is 38 years old. He grew up in a village with no running water. He studied geology. He fought jihadists in the desert with broken equipment while his politicians stole the country's gold. He seized power at 34. He expelled a colonial army that had occupied his country for a decade. He nationalized 5 gold mines. He built his country's first refinery. He reduced the national debt by 25% in a single year. He declared food self sufficiency for the first time in his nation's history. He survived 5 assassination attempts. And last week, he went on live television and told his people to forget about democracy because democracy is what the first man uses as an excuse to destroy countries like his. One of them is Donald Trump, the other is Ibrahim Traoré. And the question this video will answer is the question the entire world is afraid to ask: who is the real threat? Welcome to Redline Africa. I'm David Okonkwo, and this might be the most important video we have ever made. Before we go 1 second further, subscribe right now, not later, now. Turn on the bell and smash that like button so hard your screen cracks. Because this video is going to make powerful people very uncomfortable. It is going to get flagged. It is going to get suppressed. The only thing standing between this analysis and oblivion is you, your click, your share, your engagement. So do it. Do it for Africa. Do it for the truth. Do it because someone needs to say what I am about to say and no one else will. Let us begin. Side by side, fact by fact, no propaganda, no lies, just the record. Age and background. Donald Trump was born in 1946 in Queens, New York. His father was a real estate developer worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Trump attended private schools his entire life. He received a small loan of $1 million from his father to start his business career. His words, not mine. He inherited a real estate empire. He became a reality television star. He became president of the United States in 2017, lost in 2020, won again in 2024. He has never served a single day in the military. When his generation was called to fight in Vietnam, he received 5 draft deferments, including one for bone spurs in his heel. Ibrahim Traoré was born in 1988 in Kéra, a farming village in western Burkina Faso. His family were farmers. There was no running water. There was no private school. There was no $1 million loan. He studied geology at the University of Ouagadougou, not Harvard, not Wharton, Ouagadougou. He enlisted in the army. He trained in Morocco. He fought in Mali with the United Nations. He was cited for courage under fire in the Timbuktu region. He fought at Djibo. He fought in the Otapuanu offensive. He was promoted to captain because he bled for his country, not because his father wrote a check. One of these men knows what war looks like from a bunker. The other knows what it looks like from the front line. Now let us talk about what each of them has done with power. Donald Trump started a war. On February 28th, 2026, he authorized Operation Epic Fury, nearly 900 airstrikes against Iran in 12 hours. He killed the supreme leader of a sovereign nation. He killed dozens of senior officials. He hit military bases across 20 provinces. But he also hit a girls' school in Manab, killing 170 people. He hit hospitals. He hit pharmaceutical factories. He hit universities. He hit steel plants. He did this one day after Oman announced a breakthrough nuclear deal with Iran. One day. The ink on the peace agreement was not even dry, and the bombs were already falling. What was his justification? It has changed multiple times. First, it was to preempt an Iranian attack. Then it was to destroy Iran's missile capability. Then it was to prevent a nuclear weapon. Then it was to secure Iran's oil. Then it was regime change. Then he said regime change was never the goal. Then he said regime change has already happened because, and I quote, all of their leaders are dead. 33 days later, over 2,000 Iranian civilians are confirmed dead. 3 million are internally displaced. The internet has been cut to 4%. Hospitals have no medicine because the pharmaceutical factories were bombed. An American F 15 has been shot down, the first combat aircraft lost in a generation. 365 American soldiers have been wounded. 13 are dead. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil flows, is closed. Oil is above $100 a barrel. The International Energy Agency has called this the greatest energy security challenge in history. 12 million barrels per day lost, more than the 1973 and 1979 oil crises combined. And what has Trump achieved? Iran is still firing missiles at Israel. Hezbollah is still fighting in Lebanon. The strait is still closed. Oil prices are still rising. His NATO allies, Spain, France, Italy, have cut off support. His own Republican base is losing patience. A YouGov poll shows support for the war dropped from 76% of Republicans to 61% in 1 month. Gas prices in America have gone from $2.46 to over $4 in 5 weeks. And Trump's answer? He went on television and said, quote, "We are going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong." But the damage does not stop at America's borders. It radiates outward like a shock wave. In South Africa, more than 1,000 fuel stations went dry in a single week. Diesel hit its highest price in the country's history, over 25 Rand per liter, the largest single month increase ever recorded. Easter travel descended into chaos. Motorists drove from station to station, finding nothing. The government told people not to panic. Analysts warned the country has 2 weeks of fuel reserves. In Ghana, petrol prices jumped 15% overnight. Diesel surged 19%. The government entered emergency negotiations with Nigeria's Dangote refinery for alternative supply because the ships from the Gulf are not coming. In Kenya, the country's number one export, tea, worth $1.4 billion, is stranded in warehouses. Flour exporters are bleeding $1.4 million per week. The shipping routes that carry Kenyan goods to the world are blocked or rerouted at triple the cost. In Malawi, fuel prices rose over 30% in one adjustment. In the Philippines, the president declared a national energy emergency, the first country on earth to do so. In Sri Lanka, the government moved to a 4-day work week to conserve fuel. In Pakistan, officials told citizens to watch cricket from home to save petrol. In Australia, hundreds of stations ran dry and flights were canceled, and the IEA chief said the words that should haunt every leader on this planet. This is the greatest global energy security challenge in history. 12 million barrels per day lost, more than the 1973 and 1979 oil crises combined. And April will be much worse than March because in March, there were still ships that had transited before the war. In April, there is nothing. Nothing. That is the word the head of the International Energy Agency used to describe what is coming next month. Nothing. Wall Street analysts are now projecting oil could hit $200 per barrel if the strait remains closed. 200. If that happens, every fuel price increase Africa has seen so far will look like a warm up act. The cost of food, transport, fertilizer, cooking gas, everything that keeps African economies alive will double again. And the people at the bottom, the ones who already spend 70% of their income on food and transport, will have nothing left. This is what one man's war has done to the world in 33 days. Not to Iran, to the world, to Africa, to you. That is what the most powerful man on earth has done with his power. He started a war he cannot finish. He broke a shipping lane he cannot fix. He crashed an economy he cannot restart. And he threatens genocide on live television while his own people cannot afford to fill their tanks. Now let us look at what Ibrahim Traoré has done with his power. Traoré took power in September 2022. Within months, he expelled every French soldier from Burkina Faso, ending a decade of military occupation that had failed to stop the jihadist insurgency and had instead served as a cover for the extraction of Burkina Faso's gold by French aligned corporations. He nationalized 5 gold mines. He transferred them to a state owned entity called Sopamib. He paid $80 million for assets valued at $300 million, and the West screamed theft. But what do you call it when foreign companies extract $6 billion worth of gold per year from your country and your GDP is only 18 billion? What do you call that? Because there is a word for it. It is called colonialism with a contract. He built Burkina Faso's first gold refinery in Ouagadougou. For the first time in history, Burkinabe gold is being refined on Burkinabe soil, no longer shipped as raw ore to Switzerland, no longer processed in Dubai, refined at home, value added at home, wealth kept at home. He used the revenue to pay down over $2 billion in domestic debt, reducing the national debt by 25% in 1 year, not with a World Bank loan, not with an IMF structural adjustment program, with his own country's gold. He launched a $64 billion national development plan for 2026 to 2030. Two-thirds of it funded domestically. He declared food self-sufficiency for the first time in Burkina Faso's history. He expanded irrigation, built flour mills, opened tomato processing plants, started cotton processing. He is not just growing food, he is building an agricultural industry. On the security front, Operation Lalmasca Ice Wall has reclaimed territory from jihadists across the north. When Traoré took power, the state controlled 60% of its territory. By the end of 2025, 75%. He armed ordinary citizens, the VDP, volunteers for the defense of the homeland, and turned them into a parallel defense force. He co founded the Alliance of Sahel states with Mali and Niger. They withdrew from ECOWAS. They announced a common passport. They raised a common flag. They are building a confederation. And through all of this, 5 assassination attempts. 5. The last one in January 2026. A plot involving killing him at close range, mining his residence, disabling a drone base, and launching a foreign military invasion. It was intercepted in its final hours. The people of Ouagadougou poured into the streets at night to defend him with their bodies. That is what a 38-year-old captain from a village with no running water has done with his power. He built, while the 79-year-old billionaire from Queens destroyed. And here is the detail that crystallizes everything. while Trump was threatening to obliterate Iran's power grid, the electricity that 88 million men, women, and children depend on to survive. Traoré was inaugurating a new hospital, the Centre Hospitalier Universitaire de Palas, a real building with real doctors for real people, not a bomb crater, a hospital. While Trump was posting on Truth Social at 3 in the morning, misspelling rain as he threatened hellfire on a nation, Traoré was presiding over a Council of Ministers session discussing agricultural policy, vocational training, and road construction brigades. Not tweets, policy. While Trump was losing his second fighter jet in a single day over Iranian airspace, while American pilots were ejecting into hostile mountains, Traore's volunteers for the defense of the homeland were reclaiming villages from jihadists and reopening schools that had been closed for years. The contrast is not subtle, it is blinding. One man is setting the world on fire from a gold plated room in Washington. The other is building a country from a modest office in Ouagadougou, and the world calls the first one a leader, and the second one a problem. Now, let me show you the numbers side by side, because numbers do not lie. Trump's war has cost the American taxpayer an estimated tens of billions of dollars already, and the Pentagon is not releasing the full figure. Traore's gold nationalization generated billions in revenue and reduced debt by 25%. Trump's war closed the Strait of Hormuz and crashed global oil markets. Traoré built a gold refinery and made his country less dependent on global supply chains. Trump's war displaced 3 million Iranians. Traore's security operations allowed thousands of internally displaced Burkinabe to return home. Trump threatened to destroy Iran's power grid, the electricity for 88 million people. Traoré launched a national development plan to build infrastructure for 22 million people. Trump's approval for the war is collapsing, down 15 points among his own base in 1 month. Traore's people stood in the streets and offered their bodies as shields when he was under attack. Trump started a war during peace negotiations. Traoré signed a revolutionary constitution while fighting a war. One is tearing the world apart. The other is quietly building a nation, and the Western media calls one a president and the other a dictator. Let that sink in. Now, I know what some of you are thinking because I owe you honesty. And honesty is what makes this channel different. Traoré is not perfect. The Human Rights Watch report, 316 pages, documents the killing of more than 1,800 civilians since 2023, two-thirds by government forces and allied militias. There is evidence of ethnic cleansing against Fulani communities. There are journalists forcibly conscripted and sent to the front lines. There are political parties dissolved. There is no opposition. There is no free press. These are facts, and we do not hide from them. But here is the question nobody is asking. If Traore's record qualifies him as a war criminal, what does Trump's record qualify him as? Because the same Human Rights Watch that wrote the Burkina Faso report has also condemned the bombing of civilian infrastructure in Iran as a potential war crime. Amnesty International called Trump's threat to destroy Iran's power grid a threat to commit war crimes. The International Atomic Energy Agency said there was no evidence of a nuclear weapons program when the war began. The United Nations condemned the strikes. Multiple countries condemned the strikes. The war was launched without UN authorization, without a declaration of war from Congress, during active peace negotiations. If we are going to hold Traoré accountable, and we should, then we must hold Trump accountable by the same standard. And by that standard, the man in the White House is not a president waging a just war. He is the leader of the most powerful country on earth, committing acts that the rest of the world calls crimes while his own citizens pay $4 a gallon and his allies walk away. Two men, two visions, two records. One inherited an empire and is burning it down. The other inherited nothing and is building something from the ashes. One commands aircraft carriers. The other commands the loyalty of people who would die for him. One threatens to bomb nations back to the Stone Ages. The other says, "We will build our own stones." The West calls one a leader and the other a threat. But when the history of this era is written, and it will be written, the question will not be who had the most power. The question will be who used it to build and who used it to destroy. And there is one more layer to this comparison that I cannot leave unspoken because it exposes the deepest hypocrisy of all. The West condemns Traoré for rejecting democracy, for dissolving political parties, for not holding elections. They call him an authoritarian, a dictator, a threat to the rules based international order. But this same rules based international order just watched the United States launch a war without congressional authorization, without UN Security Council approval, during active peace negotiations, in violation of the UN Charter, against a country the IAEA confirmed had no nuclear weapons program. They call Traoré a dictator for dissolving political parties. But Trump just launched a war that his own Congress did not approve, that his own intelligence agencies say was based on unverified threats, that has killed over 2,000 civilians, including school children, and that has caused the worst energy crisis in recorded history. Which is more dangerous? A captain who dissolved political parties in a country of 22 million people? Or a president who started an unauthorized war that is starving 140 countries of fuel? Traoré silenced his opposition at home. Trump silenced an entire nation, Iran, by bombing it into darkness. Traoré dissolved 100 political parties. Trump dissolved the global oil market. Traoré refused to hold elections. Trump refused to let a peace deal happen. And the Western media, Reuters, BBC, CNN, France 24, they write headlines about Traoré saying, "Democracy kills," while they live stream Trump threatening to bomb a nation back to the Stone Ages. They call one a crisis for democracy. They call the other Tuesday. If that is not the definition of a double standard, then the English language has lost all meaning. I know which side of history I want to be on. The question is, do you? If this video changed how you see the world, even by 1 degree, then do three things. One, subscribe. We are building something here that has never existed, an African media platform that holds everyone accountable, not just African leaders, everyone, including the man in the White House. Two, share this video everywhere. WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit. Send it to the person who still thinks Trump is a strong leader. Send it to the person who thinks Traoré is just another dictator. Let them watch. Let them think. Three, comment below. Tell me who you think history will remember, Trump or Traoré, and tell me where you are watching from, because this channel is not mine, it is ours, and every voice shapes what comes next. The revolution will be analyzed. Evidence first. Africa's red lines exposed. I'm David Okonkwo. I will see you in the next briefing.